Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Elise Hayward, and here in this channel, it is devoted to women who are on the sacred path of knowing thyself or uncovering sacred truths, as well as finding themselves being a parent. So here I talk about tips and practices, things that I have picked up along the way that can aid in your development and how to best juggle being a parent, but also really being on that spiritual devotional path of whatever it is that you choose. So today, the first topic is self-care. This is huge and something that I really laughed at when I first started my journey. I had 2 children under the age of 5, and now I do not laugh at it. It is a huge aspect, and essentially it helps with really uncovering some truths, of seeing things, of being able to witness yourself, of being able to rest the body and the soul and allow for more cohesion to happen, of processing to happen. It breathes space for you and to introduce more self-love into your soul path, which is one that connects you to the whole and really does help you to get a sense that we are connected to something much more than just what you see. Right? So self-care. What do I mean by self-care? You would hear the term creating space for yourself. That term is like a spiritual jargon that's thrown around. And that simply means being able to rest, being able to be in your own energy and with yourself, not thinking of any other responsibilities, even if it's for 2 minutes a day. Ideally, it's best to practice more, but even if it's just for a couple of minutes a day, this goes a long way. It's essentially rewiring an ancient program that's much outdated. Us, for some reason, many mothers carry innately within us. It's like a guilt to do something for self. There's a great yearning to make everyone else happy and not consider ourselves, put everyone else before us. And self-care switches that constant pattern that a lot of us have, switches that off and creates a new rewiring that says, okay, what am I going to do for myself? I've got an hour while Timmy's down having a nap. What am I going to do? I've got all these chores. And this is what I found. This is tip 1. This is what I found really cool, is that when my second child was down for a nap, I would then take the opportunity to sit and say, what is it that I need? What do I want to do for myself? And I'd look around. I remember going, but I felt guilty. Oh my God, there's like all these chores to be done. But if we can do even the 2 minutes, what do I need? When you put yourself first before chores, or if you're a working mother, when you put yourself first before a project that you have to start. For me, when I was at work, I would sit at the table, grab some tea, and slow everything down and breathe with that tea. And that was my rebooting. That was my time. That was me putting myself first. It increases the amount of self-worth that you have. And this is raising the vibration of that mother archetype that's here on the planet and has been devised in a way that it's a lower vibration, that we put everyone else first and our needs last. Typically, there is a glass ceiling with that. There is ancient patterning that we need to break through in order to get to our self and our wholeness. We can do this. We can balance out being a freaking awesome mother as well as a very empowered woman who knows herself, who knows her soul gifts, uses it for good, and freaking grabs hold of her life and lives it, truly lives it. And so obviously this is a passion of mine. I come here with this channel to share these tips, all right? So taking these moments, when you're a mother, don't think of time as in a watch and it's linear, all right? This is a beautiful, beautiful practice to get into. You take the moments that are given to you, whatever moment it is, all right? It's not going to be perfect. Throw perfection out. Throw it out the door, because it doesn't exist when you're a mother. But what does exist is being in the moment, enough to realize when you can do a practice, enough to realize when it's time to sit still, or when it's time, okay, there's a message that's going to come through. I'm not sure what I need to do to find out, listening to podcasts, blah, 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 whatever it is. But you open to receive in that time. So it's just, it's the moments. So with that practice I recommended, if you're at work and you have a tea, it's the breathing that creates the space. Or when the child's having a nap, or when they're watching TV, or they're doing homework, or whatever it is, even if you're sitting next to them, it's that moment that you can take where you check in. And you could put headphones on and play your favorite song that lasts for 2 minutes, and you sing or dance, and you're in you for that period of time. You check in, recharge, reconnect in that moment that you're given. Don't let any moment go to waste when you're on that soul path and you are a mother. You take what's given to you and what's gifted to you to evolve, to know yourself better, to feel, okay, in this moment, this is what I need. Because that leads to, each moment leads to the next, to the next, to the next. What you choose to do in one moment will dictate what happens in the next and in the next. And that's your path. You're not going to be able to see 20 feet ahead of you with this, or 20, moments ahead of you, and it doesn't matter. You just keep doing what feels right for you in that moment that you've got, as you're looking after your kids. I hope that makes sense. But also, so it's like twofold. Self-caring, you're looking after the kids, you're deep in this spiritual path. You might have soul gifts that are starting to open. You're going through an awakening. You're going through a death of the ego, and you're starting to feel that there's a soul, and there's like synchronicities happening in your life, and you're like, oh my God, this is magic. But you still got to be somewhat grounded to look after the children, right? To be there. So another aspect, so the moments is one aspect of self-care. Another aspect is booking in a time with yourself, ideally daily, but if you can't do that, you start off with what you can. So weekly, whatever it is, start. You put it in the calendar or put it in the diary. This is gold. And stick to it as if you're booking someone in as a client. You book in. It could be anything that you love. What is it that you love? Do you love doing yoga? You book in your yoga class. Even if it's crazy busy and, the kids are doing this, book it in. Make it happen. Even if it's something as classic, you take it home online. Make it happen. It may not be perfect if you do it at home. Just invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Remember, we're lifting the vibration. We're putting self-worth back into us. We're rewiring those thought patterns that go, I can't do this. Who am I to do this? Yes, you can. You're human and you have a huge role with raising children as well as being on the spiritual path. You can give yourself permission to grab life and say, this is what I really need right now to create more space in my life, to then step more into the roles that I'm playing and create them in a healthy way. Rewrite them for me, make them work for me, turn up in a way that's authentic for me. But we're not going to know that until we can put our self-care practices in place. Because that, when we create the space and when we create the self-care regularly for ourselves, we know the feeling. There's a vibration and a feeling. And when we have that regularly, we know we're on the right track. There's no more, like, it's awakening to ourselves and the feeling of that high vibration. Self-care does that for us. So it's essential, especially for a mother, to do this. So book it in, whatever the activity is, and I don't mean self-care as if going to the beautician and getting your hair done, and that's separate. That is care. All right, that's care for self, but it's not self-care in the way that creates internal space for spiritual growth. It's supporting ourselves. It's that way of saying, I've got you, when no one else around quite understands the pressures that are on you. It's that little voice and that inner energy that holds us beautifully, even in the most difficult of circumstances. So I hope that makes sense. Also, I made some notes because there were a few, it was almost like I could hear questions coming up, like, yeah, that's all good and well. Now, what about in these circumstances? You know, I've said that I would be self-caring, but now my 2 children are sick. And that is something that I have just recently gone through. Here in Australia, it's winter, so, you know, and we've got the COVID restrictions as well. So a lot of mothers are feeling really isolated at the moment. You don't have your usual connections. I'm not going to my usual classes that I go to, or I'm not holding the meditation classes that I could be holding and creating beautiful meditations for these women because of the COVID restrictions. So what is it we can do to best support and self-nurture ourselves whilst our kids, you know, are really needy and clingy? And so I've created somewhat of some points that you can do, and one of them is music is very, very cool to drop in pretty quickly to the vibration of a high vibration. So your favorite song, put headphones in and listen to just one song, 2 minutes, recharge, reconnect in. And it's like, it gives you perspective, because when you've got kids hanging off you, you can, when you're tired and not sleeping yourself because you're watching them so much, it can create more of a perspective for you. Music, it's not something that, I don't recommend watching TV shows, but you can if you feel like that's aligned, obviously do it, but because we don't want to numb in that, like this is a difficult time, but in difficult times we can grow as well. We can figure out what works for us and how we can move with this, taking the moments, seeing the moments that are presented to us. And when our life goes back to semi-normal, and we get given chunks of time, you can imagine what we could do with those chunks of time and how we can really possibly even create more during that time. And that's another video where we go into creation mode. But it's essentially, it starts with creating space. So you got listening to music, you got breathing. So just closing the eyes, feeling where you're at inside and just breathing. Even if you've got kids clinging off you and all that, if you need to take that moment, you know, and that's what it's about when they're sick. Often you're not getting chunks of time. And so when a moment presents itself, you create, talking about creating, you create that moment by a shift in consciousness. Instead of going, poor me, or blah, 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 it's, how can I give myself a little bit more of a boost right now? How can I feel myself a little bit more right now? Because I don't want to disconnect from myself by pouring out my energy, which is needed, on my children, and so it's just taking those moments. Also, being able to say no to others. So it's kind of like, if you're not privy to energy, imagine you're a well, an old-fashioned well, and there's stones and they're all lined up perfectly, and your children are taking water out with their buckets, which is perfect and needed, and you're like, yeah, cool. And then say someone else who usually is okay to come in and get their bucket happening wants to come in. Now there is another program that happens with the mother archetype, many of us have, is that we don't like saying no because we don't want to risk people not liking us. Or that other friend might need some extra love. Oh, the poor thing. But you yourself have run ragged, you're not sleeping, you're not feeling well yourself, and you're trying to care for these two children. And so it's creating boundaries, right? Self-care is also the ability to create boundaries that says, actually, no one else is getting into this well right now, apart from my two children, because I am at the end of my tether and I can't possibly do anything more right now. So I'm just going to be transparent and open and just say, I'm struggling, but and I can't meet up with you for a coffee right now, or you can't come over right now, or I can't talk on the phone right now because I'm doing this, really. And that's just one example. Really nurturing that well, right? Because that water isn't going to keep going, essentially. It's that energy within you will deplete if you don't have the boundaries and you don't do those moments. It helps give perspective, so you don't get brought into that lower vibration of not looking after yourself, of your brain thinking negative thoughts, and then you can feel yourself getting smaller and smaller. Your self-worth drops as well, and you can't see anything else beyond your children who need you in that moment. It's when you stay open, you can still care for self, you've got more energy to care for them because you're checking in with yourself more. So I really hope that these tips do help you in some way. It's a huge opportunity right now. The world is quite vulnerable with all the changes happening, and mothers are needed more than ever, with the way that we can nurture and we can protect and we can create. We're connected, but we're not going to do that if we keep our self-worth down. Even in the difficult circumstances, we can keep that vibrating higher than before, right? We don't have to backtrack. We can keep that going by maintenance, by checking in with self, by taking each moment that we're conscious of to turn it back within, and continue on that path. Really, 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 really love this topic of self-care, and it's such a vital one for every woman, not just mothers, but every woman to take quite seriously and implement into their daily rituals. So sending so much love to you for now, and so much hope to you for the future. Bye for now.